The HOA stole my $100,000 tractor. Then they met my badge. Grandma's farm set, right at the edge of town. 40 acres of rich red dirt and pristine soybean rows that had belonged to my family since the 1950s, long before anyone had ever heard the words Homeowners Association. My name is Vanessa. I'm 34 years old, and on my days off, I dress in faded flannel and dust-caked jeans to work my land behind the wheel of a massive $100,000 John Deere tractor left to me by my father. Looking at me, nobody would ever guess my secret. I don't look like money, and I certainly don't look like authority. But the truth is, 5 days a week, I wear a sharp uniform, carry a service weapon, and protect this county as a formal sheriff's deputy. I kept my professional life completely separate from my farm life. But that peace was shattered when a luxury housing development called Pine Hollow Estates went up along my fence line. Suddenly, I had rows of beige mansions as neighbors and an HOA that acted like they owned the horizon. Linda Morrison, the 55-year-old HOA president, ran that subdivision like her own personal, petty kingdom. She decided my historic family farm was an eyesore that lowered her precious property values, and she wanted me gone. Every single week, a new violation notice was zip-tied to my mailbox. Ridiculous fines for grass growing 2 inches too tall, complaints about my 30-year-old equipment shed, and legal threats about the unapproved style of my fence posts. I paid the valid fines and calmly ignored the rest because my land was never part of her association. Linda hated my composure. She wanted a screaming match, but I refused to give her a reaction. What I didn't know was that on the other side of the fence, Linda's 28-year-old unemployed son, Ethan, was watching my expensive tractor with a dark, dangerous envy. The daytime theft. Ethan Morrison was a textbook case of unearned entitlement. Living entirely off his mother's HOA checkbook, he constantly bragged to neighbors that our historic farm would soon be swallowed up by the HOA, claiming his family's influence stretched further than any legal property deed. That weekend, Ethan threw a massive party at Linda's house. Standing on the patio, Ethan was loudly boasting that the stubborn female farmer next door would be forced out soon. One of his friends laughed and challenged him, saying, "Talk is easy, Ethan, but she owns the land. What are you actually going to do about it?" That challenge crushed Ethan's fragile pride. To save face, he claimed my tractor was illegally blocking an HOA maintenance road. Linda, half listening from the kitchen, tossed out a casually cruel comment. "Well, if it's such a problem, Ethan, just have it moved for a few days. That woman can hardly do anything about it out here on her own." To Ethan, that was an explicit green light. 2 days later, in broad daylight, Ethan made his move while he thought I was away at work. What he didn't realize was that I had high-definition, motion-activated trail cameras hidden all over my property. My security footage captured the entire crime in crystal-clear quality. A heavy-duty truck backed a massive flatbed trailer right up to my equipment shed. Ethan hopped out, casually walked into my private barn, climbed into the cab of my $100,000 tractor, started the engine, and drove it right onto the trailer. He was so reckless that he scraped the fender heavily against the metal ramp. Tearing off the paint, he chained it down, hauled it across the subdivision, and locked it inside the HOA's private maintenance building, even unbolting my license plate to hide the evidence. He thought he was untouchable. He had no idea he had just committed a major grand theft felony on camera. The next morning, I walked out to start my farm rounds and found my equipment shed wide open. My family's prized tractor was gone, leaving nothing but deep tire tracks in the dirt. Instead of panicking, I stayed completely calm. As a deputy, I knew exactly how to handle a crime scene. I preserved the tire tracks, downloaded the high-def security footage to my phone, and walked across the property line in my casual work clothes. I chose to handle this face-to-face first, giving them a fair chance to fix their mistake before making it official. I walked into the HOA's front office. Linda was sitting behind her desk, looking remarkably smug. When I calmly asked her where my tractor was, she put on a look of rehearsed confusion. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Vanessa, she said with a fake smile. Ethan was leaning against the doorway with his arms crossed, a cocky smirk plastered on his face, letting out a short laugh. I pulled out my phone and played the video of Ethan driving my tractor away in broad daylight. Linda didn't even blink. She waved her hand dismissively and said, "A blurry farm camera proves nothing. Besides, my association has every right to relocate unauthorized equipment that obstructs our residence. Show me the specific bylaw that grants you the authority to enter private property and seize $100,000 vehicle," I said, my voice dead calm. Linda paused, unable to answer, before instantly changing the subject to complain about my fence posts again. By this time, a neighbor named Sarah Bennett was watching the exchange through the window. Realizing exactly what crime the Morrisons had committed, seeing her audience, Linda raised her voice, performing for the crowd. "You are completely overreacting, Vanessa. This unstable attitude is exactly why this community needs strict rules to keep people like you in check." I didn't yell. I looked Linda and Ethan dead in the eye and said, "I will handle this through the proper legal channels." As I turned to leave, Linda barked out a sharp laugh. "Go ahead and call the sheriff, sweetie. Everyone in this town knows who runs this neighborhood. Let's see how that turns out for you." She had absolutely no idea how literally I was about to take that advice. I walked back to my farmhouse, went inside, and changed into my full, immaculate deputy sheriff's uniform. My badge gleamed in the sunlight, and my service weapon was secured at my side. Because this involved my personal property, I knew the Morrisons would try to claim bias if I cut a single corner. So I handled it with flawless, ironclad discipline. I gathered my tractor's original title, registration, and the crystal clear security footage, organizing it perfectly into a legal case file. Then I bypassed dispatch and called my boss, Sheriff David Cole, directly. I laid out the undeniable evidence and explicitly asked him to assign outside deputies to the case so there was zero conflict of interest. Sheriff Cole agreed immediately. Meanwhile, Sarah Bennett decided she was tired of the HOA's bullying. She walked right into the police station and gave a formal witness statement, confirming she saw Ethan hiding the stolen trailer under the cover of darkness. By that afternoon, a marked county patrol unit rolled slowly into the pristine Pine Hollow subdivision, pulling right up to the HOA maintenance building. Linda and Ethan watched from the porch, the smug smiles instantly freezing on their faces as two outside deputies stepped out of the squad car. Ethan tried to step forward, his voice shaking slightly as he said, "Officers, this is just a big misunderstanding. We just moved the tractor for routine maintenance." The lead investigator didn't buy the lie for a second. "Ma'am, unlock this building immediately," he ordered Linda. Linda tried to push back, snobbishly demanding a search warrant. The deputy smiled coldly. We already have one signed by a county judge, ma'am. Step back. They pried the heavy doors open, and there it was, my $100,000 tractor, hidden in the dark. The deputies photographed the fresh damage, found my unbolted license plate tossed carelessly on a workbench, and immediately turned to Ethan, right there, in front of his mother and his wealthy neighbors. The deputy grabbed Ethan's arms and slapped a pair of steel handcuffs onto his wrists. Ethan's face went completely pale. The arrogant boy who boasted about owning the street had absolutely nothing to say. Linda was completely frantic. She hired an expensive lawyer to spread a fake narrative, claiming I was a corrupt, vengeful deputy abusing my badge. The community split into opposing camps, and to ensure absolute transparency, Sheriff Cole opened a rigorous internal review against me. But the review backfired spectacularly on Linda. It legally proved that I had completely removed myself from the case the moment I called it in. My conduct was flawless. And then the final nail in the Morrison family coffin surfaced. Investigators discovered an automated security camera that Ethan himself had installed near the HOA office, which recorded high-quality audio. On the night before the theft, the audio captured Linda telling her son in plain, cold terms, just go get the tractor and stop worrying about the consequences. Ethan, the HOA will protect you no matter what. I built this organization so we control this town. The recording even exposed them plotting to intentionally fake code violations against me until I was financially forced to sell my family farm to them. With this explosive evidence, a general town meeting was called at the community center. Linda arrived dressed sharply, trying to project her usual dominance. That's when I stood up from the back of the room in my civilian clothes. I simply turned on a digital projector and played the audio of Linda plotting to steal my property. I showed the paper trail of fake fines she had issued to dozens of families over the years. The room fell into a stunned, dead silence. Then the anger boiled over. The very neighbors Linda had intimidated for years stood up, one by one, demanding an immediate vote of no confidence. The vote passed by a landslide, stripping Linda of her presidency on the spot. But the law wasn't done with her. A deep financial audit of the HOA books revealed that Linda had been embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars in resident dues, funneling the cash into fake vendor accounts she owned. Linda Morrison was formally hit with felony charges for financial fraud, grand larceny, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. Her high-priced lawyer immediately dropped her as a client, realizing her case was entirely indefensible. Ethan pleaded guilty to grand theft and property damage to avoid a massive prison sentence. They were forced to pay full restitution to every single neighbor they had ever defrauded, ruining them financially. And they were forced to pack up and leave the county in complete disgrace. 2 weeks later, a local contractor completely repaired my tractor's fender, restoring it to the exact gleaming condition my father had left it in. No fake rule, no wealthy family name, and no neighborhood committee will ever place you above the law. If you found out that the corrupt authority pushing you around had no real power at all, would you have the courage to stand up and fight back? Tell me down in the comments. I really want to know. And if you want to see more unbelievable HOA takedowns just like this, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Vanessa's HOA. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.